Today on the show, I've invited Kayla Wells to be our guest. She is a wife of 15 years. She's a mom of 3 awesome kiddos. And slight spoiler alert, up until this last week, she was my executive assistant. But we will get more into that in just a minute. Kayla, thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I wanted to start just a few months ago. Part of the, onboarding process after I hired you, I was going to go off to a conference. So you had some time on your own. And I said, hey, just work through some of my free training materials, some of my life planning tools, get it, just kind of help get you an idea of my brand and what I do and to help me learn a little bit more about you. But it kind of created a little bit of, I don't know what you say, a crisis or an awakening. It was a little bit of a wake-up call. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it was almost an anxiety attack, actually. Just going through that process, so many of those things were easy. Like they took 15 minutes. They weren't a big deal. And then I got to some of them that were a little bit more personal that I had to really know myself. And I just straight up had no idea what to do. And I just sat there and realized how far my life had gone and that I had no idea who I personally was outside of mom, wife, church secretary, that I just had no idea.
I feel like this is so common, especially if we've gotten married young or have been in a relationship or in a certain even career, that at some point in our 30s, we kind of look around and go, wait, is this who I am? Is this all that I am? Or could there be something more or different? What were some of those realizations for you in this process?
The first thing was when I realized I physically could not design my ideal day. I didn't even know if I was given 5 hours that I wasn't responsible for my kids, my husband, any of those things happening. I had no idea what I would even do anymore. So for me, that was sort of the catalyst there. I felt exhausted, and for years I had just thought that was because I have 3 kids and nobody sleeps when you have 3 kids. But then I realized there was more to it than that. And for me personally, I felt like I really believe in doing what you're called to do or what the Lord asked you to do. And I didn't feel like I was doing that. I knew I was called to be a good mom, and I was trying really hard. And I was trying really hard at doing that by saying yes to everything, showing up to every single party, and making sure that every invitation was Pinterest perfect and all of those things. But I kind of hated it. And I was to the point where I didn't hate my kids for sure, but I hated the day in, day out trying so hard and feeling like I was failing at it. And I think it's just because there were so many parts of it that I'm just not good at. And I needed to let go and say, no, it's okay. It's okay to pick up the invitations at Walmart and just get the thing that works. This doesn't have to be amazing all the time. They would rather that I get to sit on the couch and read a book with them than I make this perfect Pinterest party.
Oh, I love that so much because it is so difficult when, society or culture just says like we have to do all the things and we have to be all the things. And I feel like the standard and the bar has become unachievable. Like growing up in the 80s to be an awesome mom, like you made a sheet cake and you invited your kids' classmates over and you were done. Like you checked the box and you had an amazing kid's birthday party. And now there's so much more pressure. And I think there's so much beauty in realizing what's our strength and what's our passion and what isn't. And starting to let go of the stuff that isn't really us. Maybe it is someone else, and that's awesome for them. But just say, yeah, that's actually not my jam. I'm curious how you started this process after kind of having this little awakening of really getting back in touch with who you are, what your skills are, what it is that you're passionate about.
Well, and I'm pretty blessed there because I was connected to you by being your assistant. So honestly, it started with a text to you that just said, now what? Like, here's what I figured out, which is that I know nothing about myself or what I'm good at or what I should be doing. What do I do now? And you said that I needed to start paying attention to the things that I enjoy, the things that I felt really good at. And then to start testing and scaling out those things. And so that's what I started doing. I started just paying attention in both of my jobs I really liked that job and I feel like I did a really good job at it and no one had to really correct me or give me a guidance on it. I just took it, ran with it, and loved it. And doing that also in my personal life. I don't like cooking dinner when I'm exhausted, so let's make that a new chore for my preteen. Instead of just trying to do everything and say yes to everything and trying to be the best at things I just wasn't, I started really paying attention to the things that I was good at, felt confident in, and felt like it was really my strengths.
Yeah, I love this idea of just paying attention because oftentimes it all gets mixed together. What we're good at, what we're not good at, we don't give it any credibility and just acknowledging, hey, this was good and that part wasn't good instead of looking at our day as a whole and being like, it was a hard day or it was fine. I don't know. It was an okay day. Really dissecting what parts of it we loved, what lit us up, and what was kind of a grind, and just being honest with ourselves and honest with other people. How were you able to start to really, we talk a lot about like testing and scaling. What did that look like for you in this process?
During the time I've been working for you, I've been working 2 jobs. And one of the things I just did for you was working on your local retreat that you just planned. So I was doing that. At the same time, there was also an event happening in my other job. Because of my role with you, I was able to really look at it and realize I loved it. I loved the going to Costco and buying all the things that we needed and the knowing what problems might occur and trying to fix them ahead of time. I loved just every detail of it. And because I don't have the same role in my other job, I could see all of those things, but I really couldn't do anything about them. So then when a lot of things went wrong that I had seen go wrong ahead of time with the other thing, and everything went better with the retreat I had focused on, it just was sort of like this light bulb moment of, oh, I'm good at this. I love this. I wanted to get up, go to work, and do this. It was something I was excited about. And it was something I felt like I could really bless people in, where I could really just be those hands for people in a moment that they maybe feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, this has been kind of the first times that you saw yourself like that there was something beneficial outside of being a wife and a mom and just that confidence. You know, one of my phrases is confidence and clarity comes in doing. And this is such a perfect example of that. You did a thing and then you were clear that you liked the thing and then you were confident you could do the thing. I think it's so powerful once we start testing and scaling things, once we start doing the things, because confidence and clarity, it comes in doing them. People always ask me, like, I don't know what I want to do with my life, or I'm not sure if I'm able to do it. And I'm like, I don't know either. I don't know what you want to do with your life. And like, I hate to break it to you, I don't know if you can do it. Unfortunately, the only way you can test that is by doing it. If you want to be confident, if you want to have clarity, you just have to try. And isn't that trying that we figure it out?
Yeah. So, in regard to the event planning that I am hoping to spend time making a thing for myself, it's something I had done and I knew I enjoyed it, but I thought I was only good at it because I loved the people I was doing it for. And not that I don't care about you, not that I didn't want to see it succeed, but this was a whole room full of strangers. I didn't really have anything at stake there. It wasn't friends that I was entertaining, or my kid's birthday party, or something for their school, or something for our church. It was a straight up work retreat that didn't affect anything in my personal life. And I still loved it. And then I just felt so confident that it was something, look, I can do this thing without it being something I'm emotionally tied to. It can be this thing. I'm actually good at this for people who don't have to give me grace because they love me. This is something I'm actually good at, just me, myself.
I love that. I think so many times, we have things in our life that we're like, yeah, I mean, I can do it for my friends or I could do it for my family, but it couldn't like be a job. Like a stranger wouldn't pay me to do this. And it was actually one of the things when I kind of looked at your pseudo resume, I was like, oh, she's really good at this. Like it was something I could see. Like she's done this a lot and done it in, situations where I'm like, wait, why are you planning your sister-in-law's friend's dad's funeral? Like I'm so confused. How did you end up with this job? But other people apparently saw it in you as well. I think that confidence can help give us the courage. How did you see that start to play out in your life?
So it really wasn't some big magical moment. It just came down to finding the confidence to realize what I was good at and then going ahead and admitting it to myself, admitting it to my husband, and being really aware of what I wanted. So part of this for me meant learning to say no, which is not something I've ever felt confident doing. But it was just really obvious in everything I had learned and everything I was feeling, how that needed to be step one. So I started doing that. I just started cutting things out. For the first time, we're not doing extracurricular activities because mom doesn't have time or energy to do them right now. And I'm not going to drag everybody 50 places anymore.
Yeah.
We're going to really figure out for all of us in our family what is really important to each of us, what each of us feels like we're supposed to be doing. And our family is working so much better because of that.
And I know that boundaries are something that, man, especially as women, can be so challenging. How did that start to look in this new, like, I'm learning how to say no phase?
Well, like I said, saying no was not something I felt confident in doing anyway. And I was so overwhelmed with doing both jobs and trying to learn all of this about myself at the same time that saying no and setting boundaries just became survival. It meant saying no when somebody asked me to run to the store for them and I just didn't have time. And the first few times I did it, instead of just feeling like guilty and worn down, which I think so many of us do, I just would say, you know what, I'm sorry, I really can't right now. And I can't do everything for everyone, but I have some time another day, or just creating ways that I could set a healthy boundary for myself that I wasn't letting people down in my mind, but I was also saying yes to the things that were really important for my family. Someone told me once that it's really important to remember that saying yes to one thing means that you are saying no to something else. And I just realized that I needed to start paying attention to the things I was saying yes and no to make sure that my yeses and nos were falling in the right categories for our life.
And all of this amazing self-discovery and personal growth ultimately led to you quitting as my executive assistant. Tell us about that kind of realization and just that experience of quitting something.
So I had never quit a job before, really, in my life. I had always put them on hold, and then something would happen in that business where it required me not going back, or I had a kid and had to take maternity leave and couldn't go back. Or like one time I had a boss retire and then die, so I couldn't go back. I had never actually had to quit a job. And at the same time, I was mulling this over and trying to figure out what I was supposed to do and where I fit the best, my other job offered me an opportunity that I just, in all of my prayer, in all of my seeking mentors, in everything I was doing to try to become this person I could see, but I wasn't there yet, it just fit better. And so I spent about a week just in this horrible, yucky place, to be honest, about where I mentally just went back and forth on could I or couldn't I let you down? Could I or couldn't I quit? How do you even quit a job? I didn't even know how to physically do it. I mean, I had to like Google what is the appropriate way to quit a job when you're an executive assistant because I didn't know. And so I did all those things, and then it just hit this moment where I woke up and it was the day in my week where I had tasks to do for you, and it was overlapping a day I had tasks to do for my other job, and those ones just fit better with the vision I felt like my life was headed in. I felt like I was being called to do. I felt like fit me better than the ones that were set for my job with you, and it was just really clear.
I love
So,
that. I always love, people doing these exercises and doing this internal work because it does become a filter. It becomes the clarifying lens of what the right decision is. Sometimes people email me and be like, "Hey, what should I do with my life?" And I'm like, "I've never met you. I actually don't have a magic 8 ball. All I can do is give you some tools to figure out what's true for you. And then we create this filter and we can hold opportunities up to this filter. Does it match? Does it not match? But without that, it can be so overwhelming and so scary. I mean, it's hard to quit things. Anyways, even once you have the clarity, I'm the worst at quitting things. Which is why I write about it so much, because it's terrifying. I love that even though it means me losing my executive assistant, you've done this work. And I find it so encouraging and so inspiring because for so many of, especially women in this season of life, we need that clarity. And it is difficult internal work. It's not something you can just like buy. Buying a new shirt or buying a new car will not actually fix this problem. How
yeah.
have you parlayed this this confidence and this clarity into other areas of your life?
Well, I felt like at first my whole life just sort of slowed down everything I was deciding on. I just was being so intentional in every single decision that I was making and really running it through those filters of, I'm going to pray about this really hard. I'm going to think about this. I'm going to write down my emotions on this. I'm going to figure it out. I felt like every decision I was making was super slow. And then once this main decision was made, all of a sudden I feel like things have gone really fast. So in the course of the last 2 weeks, I have gone back and figured out what my GPA at college really ended at, which was a little scary to step out and do, to figure out what classes I would need to be able to become an actual certified event planner, figuring out how that would fit in with the other job I chose to take. I have agreed to go on a vacation with my parents that I've been promising to do for years and years and years without my kids, without my husband, to sit down and really have time to bond with them again, and also to reevaluate all of this in a few months and know for sure I'm making all the decisions I'm making in the way I'm supposed to be making them, in the way I'm called to make them. Oh gosh, what else? Just silly things like, for months, I had been meaning to make a nail appointment with a friend of mine, and I just kept putting it off because I didn't have time, and there were way too many yeses in my life. So I said no to a couple of other things, and even though my to-do list at work was huge, I was beyond my scope of hours for the week, so I said no to a couple of things, and I went and got my nails done, which was only an hour out of my day, but I was able to connect with her and have that hour with her, and it meant so much, and I just felt better about myself as well afterward. And my husband's noticed, my kids have noticed, my other boss has noticed. I just feel like this weight that I didn't even realize I was completely carrying is just gone, because I know for sure that I'm walking where I'm supposed to walk in what my life is designed to be, in what I'm called to do.
It is amazing. Once we get a little bit of clarity in one area of our life and we start taking action, how then we really like the ball really starts to move a lot quicker and we start to get some traction. It's just that process of getting unstuck. Kayla, if you had kind of one tip for other women who maybe are in this season where they feel a little disconnected with who they are or what they want or what are they good at, what could be a really significant contribution, what advice would you give to that woman?
My one best tip would be surround yourself with people who know you, love you, can be authentic with you, and have the same vision for you that you have for you. For me, it is my husband, my closest friends, and the members of my church that know me well. For me, it was really about being authentic with those people, sharing where I was really at, being vulnerable and willing to listen when they said, "You're really better when you are doing this over here. This creates the person you are proud of being and who you are called to be. When you're doing this thing over here, you're not as great of a person to be around. And this is what we see." And really listening to that and being willing to hear it.
Thank you so much, Kayla, for just coming on and sharing this part of your story. I think it really is going to be inspiring for a lot of, especially women and maybe moms and wives who started to feel disconnected and lost in this process of life and are ready to like look up and figure it out again. I really appreciate you just taking the time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. I hope someone else can hear my story and become who it is that they were created to be with a little bit more confidence.
I love that. And I love what Kayla shared in her story because it is such a fantastic picture of the reality that it doesn't have to be perfect. We just have to be a little bit more courageous every day, finding that clarity and gaining that confidence because adventure awaits.